Okay, so let's start. So hello, everybody. I'm Piotrek. I'm I'm product analyst in Docplanner. So I'm the Spock guy that Adam talked about, and I was always obsessed with data. So my previous experiences started with marketing, with project management, with product management, and so on. But I was always leaning towards data. So I was trying to figure out, okay, how can we measure this? How can we measure this? What information else we might need? I was trying to find different ways to measure stuff, to make sure that we are on the right path. So I was keeping doing this, and my obsession has become how to measure everything. I wanted to know everything, like everything that is possible. I wanted to put into data, put into models, and try to understand reality. And by the way, during doing all this, I learned that this subtitle here should exist. So this may not be the correct approach. And I wanted to share my experiences with you and how do we do this in Docplanner, what do we focus on, and so on. Yeah. So first I have a question for you guys, because you came to this meetup, so I guess you work with products, with businesses, and so on. So why do you measure stuff? Why do you measure different things? Yes, first try. Okay, great. This is perfect. Yes. Okay, and if we wanted to go one level higher, why do we want to make decisions? Why do we make decisions? Why this is an issue in businesses? So many answers. Okay, so I would say that we are trying to make decisions to reach a goal. So what drives people, what drives us as a companies, is a goal, and from this goal comes everything else. So we want to achieve something. Then we need to decide what actually do we need to do. Then we need to understand what's happening. So we need to analyze data, and to have this, we need to do some research. We need to have some knowledge, some basics. But everything comes from the goal. So without the goal, anything else is meaningless. So we can have meaningless decisions. We can have meaningless research, meaningless analysis. Everything should be aligned with the goal that we have. Either it's our personal goal or it's our company goal. And different companies have different goals. So when I look at the companies, like many of the huge companies, they have one goal, and this is revenue, or any other business metric. They want to maximize the market share. They want to reduce the customer acquisition cost. They rely on sales. They want to sell more, but in the end, they always want to optimize the revenue. But we work with products, so we as product people, we don't care this much about the business reality. We want to do cool stuff. We have a mission. We need to achieve something. We want to change the world. We need to create awesome products. So we want to rely on the product metrics. So we care about stuff like an NPS. We care if our customers are satisfied. So we measure. By the way, this was money, and this is the picture for value that was not loaded. But anyway, we measure lots of stuff that you can summarize as we want to measure what is the value that we bring to the world? What is the thing that we change? What is the thing that our product achieves? But in the end, we are bound by reality. So we are bound by the business metrics. This is the reality that we work in. Still, we need a goal. We need a goal to keep ourselves aligned. We need a goal to know which decisions are good, which decisions are bad. We need to understand this. So I have created a very simple model of our business. I know, it's beautiful. So I tried to combine business metrics with product metrics. So on one hand, we have some product metrics here. So we need to acquire patients to our marketplace. We have some returning users to our marketplace, and we can influence this by our product. Then we have the traffic. Then Adam's team is working on the conversion rate. So this is another product team focus on this. Then we have number of bookings per doctor. And on the other side, we have stuff like NPS and customer engagement, and sales and churn, and this contributes to the number of doctors. And if we multiply those two, we have number of bookings. So we decided that our goal as a product would be number of bookings. This is what we care about, because everything that we could think of, so any product metric that we thought of, was in the end contributing into bookings. But if we focus only on the product goals, aren't we running away from the reality? And the beautiful thing about our goal is that we have business metrics here as well. So we have sales, we have churn, we have revenue per customer, and this all contributes to the revenue. So we thought that we can combine the two worlds. We can combine the business reality of sales and pushing targets and earning money, and we can combine it with the product world, with changing the world and creating beautiful things and working with passion. So this is our goal. This is our goal that we think that adds up everything pretty nicely, and any decision that we make, first we check, does it bring us more bookings? And if the answer is yes, then we know that we are on the right path. Yeah. So this is this is how our vision looks like. So we have climbed up the ladder pretty high, starting with goals, and the goal is to book a visit. And now we need to climb down. So this presentation is not about goals. This presentation is about measurement. But if we go back to the previous slides, we know that to know what should we research, to know what should we analyze, we need to have a goal. So keeping in mind that we already have a goal, we created something called a bed cloud. So this is our goal here in the center. So sometime in the future, we want to achieve 3 million bookings monthly. And we can do this by optimizing our business. So we can push sales, we can optimize costs, we can expand to different markets, we can do lots of business stuff. But as a product team, we want to introduce new features to people. We want to improve their lives. So we created bubbles of beds. So these are beds that if we believe that if we fulfill them, if we complete them, we will in the end reach our goal. And the big ones are be where our users are, have all doctors real calendars in the marketplace. We want to focus on patient engagement and so on. So and then all those bigger bubbles, they have smaller bubbles. There are projects, there are optimizations, and so on. So by doing this, this alignment thing, we are sure that anything, any project, any one bubble that we work on, we know that in the end it contributes to our company goal, to our company mission. And then we needed to actually formalize this. So I blurred out these two because we are not doing them right now. So I don't know. I don't want to promise anything. But this is what we use to align our teams. Let's say that we believe, this is our bet, we believe that improving search on our website will increase the number of bookings. We have a metric for it. And we have an explanation why is this important. And then there is this guy who is standing behind everybody. He's always asking, what's the potential? What's the potential? What's the potential? Yeah, isn't it this true? Yeah, it sounds like you. And I have a proof. Me, as a product analyst, I'm interested in answering those questions because I want to know. I want to create knowledge. I want to analyze everything. I want to get all the data that I can. Yeah. And you saw this slide before, and in Adam's presentation. This is how we work. Adam described it. So we start somewhere here with our bet. We bet that improving the search will improve bookings. We start with the bet that converting offline patients to online patients will improve our bookings. And then we try to explore our possibilities. What are the problems? Why our users are not doing what we want? But then comes this part. So initially, we have lots of different problems to solve, lots of different possibilities. But in the end, we want to choose the most promising ones. We want to choose the most important ones. And this is where we need to measure it. We need to measure the potential. We need to measure the processes. We need to measure the quantities of how it can affect our business. So we start with some research. And these are some of the methods that we use. Obviously, we use existing knowledge, so we Google lots of things. There are published papers. We do user interviews. Adam talked about the UX researcher that does user interviews. So we talk to our users. We try to understand them. We try to learn their problems, what's blocking them. You can do focus groups. This is like the iteration of interviews, but we don't do focus groups. Observations. So with physical products, usually you can observe the customer in the store, how he behaves, and so on. For us, we have recordings. So we observe how our patients, how our doctors use our products. We try to analyze it. We look for inconsistencies. We look for obstacles. And then we have service, data analysis, and experiments. And these are the 3 points that I want to focus on. So this is like clear research. So we don't get any measurements out of this. This we can quantify and we can measure. And let's start with surveys. So the most basic type of a survey is an open question survey. So for example, this is the survey that we launched on our website when you abandoned the booking process. So we saw that the patient wanted to book a visit. He canceled for some reason. We don't know why. So we decided, let's ask him. And this is insanely awesome source of insights and understanding of our users if you ask the right questions. So you can you need to remember about the detail level. So you don't want to ask about the whole experience, but maybe you want to ask about the specific action, specific part of your product. You need to look through the user perspective. So you know that that you have your limitations about what you can do, what you can develop, what kind of product you want to build, but users don't know it. They have their expectations, and they have their goal. So if you ask those types of questions and you want specific answers, you need to focus on the goal that the user had in mind. So here we assume that the user wanted to book a visit. So we ask him directly about this. And of course, you can iterate. So one question doesn't work for you. You ask another, you learn, you get different insights, and so on. And the result of this is this. So we have thousands of answers. We find many different issues. So UX issues, copy issues, technical issues, any missing features, any product problems, anything that holds the user. For example, I don't know if you see, but those short rows, these are the SMS codes that user is supposed to input on a later stage of the booking process. But for some reason, they input it into our service. So clearly, we have some either UX issues or copy issues. But this is not measurement. Of course, you can like go row by row and have a person assign the categories or something like that, and then try to quantify it. But really, this is this part. This is the part of the discovery. So we are discovering different problems, different needs of a user, different obstacles that they have that prevent them from using our product. So the next step, we can do closed survey. And then we will have the results grouped by the source. And here is also a couple of things that we should think about. So obviously, limit number of options. We don't want like 20 options. But we still need to focus on the user goal and focus on the user perspective. So for example, here is the thing. I'm already healthy. I don't need any help. That is completely not actionable for us. So we are a booking platform. If you don't need a doctor, well, okay, we probably cannot solve your problem right now. Yeah, of course. But including those options, it allows us to estimate the size of our addressable audience. So we know which part of the problem we can solve and which part of the problem we cannot solve, even if we try really hard, even if we implement awesome features. With this, we could, for example, we could in the cancellation process suggest other doctors. We could suggest rescheduling a booking. We could, and here this is the indication that our clients, our doctors, they don't use our software to cancel the booking, but for some reason they ask the patients to do this. So those three are super actionable for us. We can measure them. We can measure how many cancellations are caused by this. This one, we know that for now we cannot address this need, and we know that even if we iterate 1,000 times, we will not reach 100% of success. Oh, and this is one other really cool thing that I wanted to show you with service. So there's a widespread idea that some things are impossible to measure because they are intangible. You don't know how to how to measure it. It's something in the air, it's something difficult to measure. But the thing is, if something what you are doing has any impact, any meaningful impact, then you can measure it. You can measure this impact. So inside our company, we have a weekly survey to all of us, all of our people, when we ask simple questions. You answer 5 questions every week, and then you can track what is the happiness level in the company. And the questions are categorized, so we have personal growth, we have like feedback, relationship with the manager, and this example shows that even things that are not that are at a first glance they are really difficult to measure. So how do you measure the atmosphere in the company? Well, you can if you ask the right if you ask the right questions, and if you ask them repeatedly over time. Then you can, for example, change something in the office and see the impact that it had on the employees' satisfaction. But let's go to the fun part, so the data. We have 3 main sources for product data, at least in Docplanner. So obviously we use Google Analytics, most of you probably know. Obviously we use database. And for SaaS, we use Mixpanel. Mixpanel is very similar to Google Analytics, but the focus on Mixpanel is on users rather than on sessions. So when I started working as a product analyst, I suddenly got access to all these sources of information. So I had surveys, I had interviews, I had analytics access, I had Mixpanel access. I could suggest new ways to measure things, new stuff to track. I had a database, so I could maybe send information from analytics to database, maybe from database to analytics, and I could have everything. So this is how I felt. So suddenly I got what I dreamed for. So I got access to all the information, and now I could do everything. I could pull all those data and do awesome models and do everything that I wanted. But the reality is that too much data is too much. And we have one really ridiculous example of this. This is not in Docplanner. This is in one of the previous companies that I worked for. So I was doing an analysis on what influences the number of transactions. It was an e-commerce website. So I was looking in the database, and this is the transaction ID, the price, many more columns like user ID and so on. And then I had 2 variables, and they were named exactly like this. So X and Y. There was no description anywhere. And so I was working in the marketing agency, so I asked the client, hey, what are those X and Y variables? They are in the transactions table. They must be super important if you decided to keep it in the database. They didn't know. But there was hope. So they used a software house in another city to code the software that they were using. So I was, oh yes, please give me contact to them. I will call them and I will ask, because this may be important. They didn't know. Either they didn't remember, or they already fired the person who implemented this in the database. So I was like, okay, so I'm alone. Anyway, those seem to be very important, so I will check them out. So I checked the X values, and it was from 1 to 2000, and the distribution was like normal distribution, but with ends at 1 and 2000. The Y values were from 1 to 80, and also normal distribution, and it had no correlation with anything whatsoever. So I pulled all the data from the database, everything that I could. I ran every single correlation test that I could. Nothing. It was not correlated with anything. but I couldn't sleep. uh, because I am the person that needs to know, and I needed to know. I needed to know what the hell is this. So I started digging, and I started digging through the code of the website, and then I stumbled across something like this. So you can already imagine what it is, and then I tested it. I did some test transactions, and those values assigned in the database for every single transaction was the position of your cursor on the button when you clicked it. Yeah, it was like coordinates. So if it was 2345, so it would mean something like this, that you clicked here, and it was so first somebody had an idea that that this is a good idea, that we could measure this, and it might be important. Then somebody implemented it, so spent time to the information was saved in the cookie. So somebody recorded the click, saved it into the cookie, then decided to download the information from the cookie to the database, and then record it. And then there was me spending like 2 days on trying to learn what those values are. Amazing. So this is, of course, the extreme example. I don't suppose that many people have this issue. But the learning of this is that information is not free. Anything that you need to measure, anything that you need to gather, has a cost. Either it's human cost that you need to spend time on it, or it's complexity cost, or it's legacy cost, or anything. So before you measure anything, and before you decide that this is a good idea, ask yourself these two questions. Who and how will use this information? Or what decisions will be made based on this data? If you have an answer, or if you even have a vague answer, and maybe in the future we will do this. I mean, if your answer is maybe in the future we'll do this, you still probably shouldn't do it. But if you don't have an answer at all, then just don't do this. Because the decisions are what we need the data for. If we don't, if you have the data, but we don't make any decision, then it's useless. And this example with the button, this is of course the extreme example. But I'm sure that most of us have decided that, hey, let's research something, or let's ask support guys to ask our customers about something, or let's measure something. And then we got the results and we didn't do anything with it. So essentially, when we do this, we waste time of our people. We waste our own time in inventing this stuff. So a couple of ideas how to make the information reusable. So I believe most of us work with online products, and we have apps, or we have websites, and most of the information that we have is universal. So if we want to send it to Google Analytics, then probably we also want the survey tool to know about this, or recording tool to know about this. So we rely really heavily on Google Tag Manager. This is like the saving grace for our developer teams and analyst teams. And here you can see the simple implementation. So we push the information about the doctor specialization, the region, the type of the page that it is there. Sometimes, like, maybe those we could pull into Google Analytics from the URL, and we could think about something. But here we have remains of the test that we did. So we did the redesign and we wanted to do the test. Of course, the redesign was on the same URLs and used most of the same elements. So it would be impossible in analytics to check which result is more successful. So we also put this information in the data layer, and any tool, any software that we used later could access this information through Tag Manager. By the way, we use most of those information in the Google Analytics custom dimensions, and I remember I started and I saw that Google Analytics has only 20 possible custom dimensions. I was, well, 20. I need at least 100. I want to know everything. I want to know stuff. In reality, currently we use 17, and I think like 7 of them are obsolete. So we are at 10 because honestly, the number of information that you can process, that you can use at any given time, is limited. So I think the 20 custom dimensions in Google Analytics is actually a good number. They thought about this, and if you are going beyond the custom dimensions in Analytics, then probably you are not doing something right. And what's more, and experiments, of course. So experiments. So previously we talked about research and getting the data. So we were in the define phase, and we can also use experiments to define what is the right thing, because there are different types of experiments. But mostly we use experiments in this phase. So we already have something, and we are trying to decide between one version or another version, maybe one solution, another solution. So we use heavily experiments here in this last phase of implementation. And there are different types of experiments. There are many more, but those are the ones that I especially like. So smoke tests. And smoke tests are usually thought as fake landing pages. So you want to sell something, or you want to check the interest, so you set up a fake landing page with buy now or register button, and then nothing happens. But you at least know how many people are interested, what is the possible conversion rate. But you can extend the smoke test to other fields. So we can do smoke test sales meetings. So you can try to sell something even if you don't have it. Maybe later you can explain that this is the product that you are working on, and you will have the version in X months or something. But this is a great way to probe the actual interest. Because if you come up to a person and you ask, hey, I'm thinking about the product X and it's amazing, would you buy it? Yeah, they would like, yeah, sure, I would buy it. If you commit to this and you conduct it as a real sales meeting, then you have much better information. Also, you can do fake things for parts of the stuff. So, for example, we were trying to decide if on our listing page we should use a map. And so the idea was that the map for searching things is really engaging, because you can open a map and you are looking for a doctor near your location, so you can check different possibilities. Oh, this one is here, this one is here. But the problem with maps is that it's a complicated product and an expensive one if you have a big scale, because you need to pay the provider, either Google or here or any other provider, for every map usage. So what we did is we set up a map, but the map was just a placeholder. It was an image. So it wasn't really providing value to the users. So it was, in this way, it was fake. But we at least knew what percentage of users would be interested in clicking on the map. We knew what was the interest. So then we could estimate the potential impact. We could estimate the ICE scoring that Adam was talking previously. So this was a fun project. MVPs as an experiment. So usually MVPs are thought in terms of new companies that are just starting. But as a big company, you create features, and you can create also MVPs of features. And usually you do things manually. So for example, recently we were trying to assess if a chat for patients would be a good idea. So we launched a simple chat tool on our listing page, and there was a pop-up with a question, hey, would you like some help finding the doctor? And of course, we didn't invest in developing the real chatbot with the suggestions and recommendations engine and everything like that. We just sat and we answered manually the patient's questions. And this way we were able to assess what is the interest, can we actually help the patients? Because if we can't help the patients as humans, we are unlikely to develop something automatic that would be better. And of course, exit the experiment. Don't stay in the MVP phase forever. And A/B test. Adam loves A/B tests, and he iterates and iterates and iterates. And with A/B tests, I'm sure that you read many of those articles. Like, hey, I have changed the color of my button on my landing page to red, and it increased my conversion rate by X%. Or you can have 9 tests that you can run tomorrow to double your conversions. Honestly, these maybe work for like really crude products that are unpolished, bad design, maybe not bad, but early design, that you are actually likely to find something. But the real reason for the tests, the real reason that you would actually want to test something is your hypothesis. So you should always come from those insights that we generated. So maybe changing the color of a button is an actual improvement. But unless some users told me that, hey, I really like bright colors and those dull colors are not attractive to me, I wouldn't do it. But one of the things that you can do wrong with A/B tests is A/B testing blindly. So you don't have ideas, but you know that you should do A/B testing, so you change the copy to different copy, you change the colors, you change the position, you change anything else. And yes, maybe you will increase your conversion rates or whatever by some margin, although this is unlikely, and you are unlikely to continue the improvements unless you have some hypothesis, some understanding what is actually preventing your users from buying or registering or completing the action that you want them to. Yeah, and this is always the question. The similar questions as with data. Should I run this experiment? So, who and how will use the results? What decisions will be made based on this experiment? Always ask those questions if this experiment is necessary. Maybe there is no decision after the experiment after all. Maybe it's already decided that we are launching this, and just do the experiment because we want to do experiments, but we will launch this anyway. So in this case, if the decision was made before, it's no point in doing the test. Do you work? Do you work? So one of the points that Adam thought was really cool in the product analyst job description was creating data-driven culture. So when we started doing the experiments, I wanted to introduce something like this. So before the experiment, please fill this. And here we have all the questions, or the important question that you need to ask yourself before the experiment. So what is the expected result change in metric? This is actually an important one. Because if you run the test and let's say that your conversion rate is 10%, if you don't have any expectation, so you just want to check, then you will not know what to do after the experiment. So please try always when you run an experiment, try to assess, okay, I think that this change may actually increase the conversion rate by 5% or by 10% or maybe double the conversion rate. This will A, help you make the decision after the test, and B, it will help you decide which test to run first. So start with the test with the higher potential growth, and small optimizations that have the expected result of increasing the conversion by 0.1%, you can probably skip. Yeah, but coming back to this, so I wanted to write the hypothesis, I wanted to document the experiment design, what you are going to do if the test is successful, unsuccessful, then put the results, put the learnings, and the next steps for the future generations, for the new people that will join the company, to create knowledge. I did like knowledge banks and everything like that. And the reality was this. So this is the proud product owner, Adam Kryszkiewicz, and he wanted to be methodical, so he created an experiment goal, and he created hypothesis, and then he didn't create the experiment design, and this he didn't even bother to delete. Does it mean that Adam is bad product owner? No, this was too much. This was too much, and we did this for 1 month. We learned from it. So now, whenever I talk to the teams, I get the feeling that they understand the test. They understand what is the purpose of the test. What are the traps? What are the important things to consider? So we ditched it. And even though this template, you can call it unsuccessful because it didn't stick, the reality is not so bad. So here's the screenshot of Optimize and all the tests that Adam's team did. So we can count the tests in May. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5. Only 5? Some more in April, okay. But we are consistent. We do lots of tests every month. We don't skip opportunities to test. And when I check those tests, they are really based on research. They have ideas behind them. They are not random tests, random changes of the color of the button, the position of the button. They have method behind them. And if you use a tool like Optimize or Optimizely or any other tool for A/B test, usually you already have the design because those are the versions that you have there. You have the descriptions, so those are not really necessary. So Adam has built an awesome experiment machine that works, and I'm super happy to support him and feed him new ideas and ways to analyze. And this was everything. Thank you. Do you have questions? No. Oh, yeah. Okay. Yes, we try to check, and sometimes it happens that, for example, the test result is successful. So we assume that the conversion rate will increase by 5%, and it increases by somewhere around this. So the test is successful, and then we launch it onto production, and no change. Yes, it happens, and those situations are quite difficult because there's many things to consider. Maybe we didn't set up the tool correctly. Maybe we made a mistake analyzing the results. Maybe when we launched to production, we are no longer running A/B test. So maybe the total number of conversions, which should grow by 5%, was actually affected negatively by something else, some external factor that made the increase impossible to see. We don't know. We try our best, and whenever this happens, we go back to the test and we examine the results and we check in analytics, any things that may happen. But in the end, we believe that our experiment science is really good. And even if after launching to production, the change doesn't show much, we still keep it. Okay, so if you don't have any more questions, then thank you. And let's go for another break.